So let's chat a little bit, and I would like to emphasize a little bit about what is new in SharePoint 2013. Because there is no way I could capture everything in one slide or a few slides, but over the course, you will see a lot of new things that have been added inside of SharePoint 2013. So, what is new in SharePoint 2013? Probably the number one differentiator between SharePoint 2010 and SharePoint 2013 is apps. Apps, as you might be familiar with from, let's say, your mobile phone, is a unique piece of functionality that you install, use, and if you don't like it, you uninstall, and you have full confidence on what that app did to your environment, mobile phone or SharePoint installation. The apps model is also backed by a marketplace. And the apps model is also controlled very well with a security architecture. So just like when you install an app on your phone and it says, hey, this app might want to use your location. And as a user, you can say yes or no. SharePoint has equivalent concepts. I will be covering apps in detail in its own module, but this is probably the number one big difference between SharePoint 2010 and 2013. And again, I said apps apply to both Office Thick Client and SharePoint, and you know, and they have their own marketplaces, etc. Workflows, in my opinion, is a big change in SharePoint 2013. They've introduced something called a SharePoint 2013 style workflow, so they perform a lot better and they scale a lot better. Now, SharePoint 2013 style workflows are not available in SharePoint Foundation, so that's an important thing you need to keep in the back of your mind. But I will say that SharePoint 2013 style workflows are built on a product called as Workflow Manager, and the applicability of Workflow Manager, which is technically a part of Windows, is the applicability of that is more than just SharePoint. So this is a very compelling shift in how we use Workflow Foundation, and this is something that I feel is going to have a long-lasting impact on how we develop on the Microsoft platform. Claims and OAuth security is everywhere. Claims is the default. OAuth security is how apps are secured. So that is another big differentiator between 2010 and 2013, that in 2010, claims was a choice. 2013, claims is the default. Classic is a choice. But if you go with Classic, a whole bunch of cool stuff that SharePoint 2013 is known for, like apps, is not going to work. So practically speaking, you need to use claims with SharePoint 2013. There have been a lot of enhancements in BCS. They've made it friendly with apps. They've added support for additional data sources. Web content management. SharePoint web content management prior to SharePoint 2013 has faced a lot of criticism. Part of that criticism was around the cost of the product. Part of it was around the complexity, user experience, and perhaps search engine optimization was the number one challenge that people faced when using SharePoint as their internet-facing platform. But in 2013, WCM, as it existed in SharePoint 2010, is still there, if that's what you prefer to use. But it has been improved so much that right now SharePoint 2013 is a very compelling web content management system, both from a cost perspective and also from a feature set perspective. Now, why do I say from a cost perspective? Because you can use Office 365, and the lowest plan you can use this with is P1, which gives you a SharePoint site. You can use a P1 plan with one user, $6 a month, to use SharePoint as your internet-facing site. Now, of course, the more features you want and the more users you want collaborating over there, maybe you will need to pay more. But in general, web content management in SharePoint 2013 is quite compelling and deserves a second look if you had ditched it in 2010. 2013 search flows through the veins of SharePoint 2013. Microsoft acquired a product called Fast Search in SharePoint 2010. Using Fast on SharePoint 2010 was like using Linux on SharePoint or something weird like that. But it didn't really feel like it was a part of the product. So it has been integrated through and through with SharePoint, as in SharePoint Search is Fast Search. And But on the other hand, a lot of fine tunability of fast has been taken out. So you can think of it this way, that fast was like a DSLR camera. They've turned it into more or less a point and click camera, which is going to satisfy the needs of 99.9% of us. And as you go from foundation to standard to enterprise, you get more tweakability. But even SharePoint Enterprise Edition doesn't offer you the level of tweakability that Fast Search did. Okay, and that is an important distinction, because Microsoft can still sell fast to you as it existed, but the number of customers using it was apparently not as much. This is really Microsoft's decision. But I would say that 99% of what you're trying to accomplish, practically speaking, can be done in SharePoint Enterprise. There's few borderline scenarios that can't be accomplished, like pushing things into the content pipeline on demand, right? So those are some very extreme scenarios that can't be accomplished. But SharePoint 2013 search is actually quite compelling.